At its peak, Weight Watchers was pulling in over $1.5 billion a year, had millions of paying members worldwide, and was valued at more than $6 billion. Which is why it's crazy how within 6 years it had to file for bankruptcy with more than $1 billion in debt. This is the story of the rise and fall of Weight Watchers. In 1963, Jean Nadech was living in New York and struggling with her weight. She attended a city-run health seminar and was given a standard diet plan, the kind that technically works but is difficult to live with. She realized she kept tripping because she had no one to talk to about those cravings and bad habits that ruin a lot of diets. So she began inviting friends over once a week to weigh in and talk honestly about what they were eating and why it wasn't going as planned. Those meetings started to grow because people loved the idea of accountability, routine, and a support group that understood the experience without judging it. The rise. As more people joined, the meetings moved into larger spaces. By the mid-60s, Weight Watchers was formally incorporated, and the company leaned into a franchise model that let it expand quickly without heavy capital costs. Members who lost weight and kept it off could run their own groups and send a percentage of revenue back to the parent company. By the 70s, Weight Watchers had spread widely across the US and into other countries, particularly the UK, where meetings became a regular feature of church halls and community centers. Jean Nadech, who herself lost 70 pounds using the system, became the face of the brand, appearing regularly on television and large events like the company's 10th anniversary in 1973, where more than 15,000 people turned up. She was the first among a long line of celebrity endorsements that helped the program. In 1978, Heinz acquired the company for about $71 million because it paired neatly with a line of healthy frozen meals and packaged foods they had introduced. Under that ownership, the brand continued to grow steadily through the 80s and into the 90s. Meanwhile, competition started to show up, as diet pills, Slim Fast, Jenny Craig, and other programs started to gain popularity. Weight Watchers responded by introducing its now iconic point system, which translated calories, fat, and sugar into a single daily budget, making it extremely easy to track. Each food was given a points value based on calories and nutritional factors, and members were given a daily points budget. As long as they stayed within that number, the details mattered less. Fruits and veggies were given 0 points, which meant people could eat as much as they liked, reducing stress while keeping overall limits in place. Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, became a big supporter of the new system and helped it gain popularity. In 1999, Heinz sold Weight Watchers through a leveraged buyout to a private Luxembourg firm called Artal Group. The transaction loaded debt onto the company's balance sheet. Not long after, parts of the company were taken public, adding pressure to deliver financial performance alongside interest payments. At the time, these moves looked okay because Weight Watchers memberships were growing and the firm was making profits. But the debt reduced flexibility because it obliged the firm to pay creditors regardless of the market conditions. And that's exactly what went wrong in the early 2010s. As the internet exploded and smartphones became increasingly common, free calorie trackers, fitness blogs, social media communities, and nutrition advice became widely available online. People realized they didn't need a $20 Weight Watchers membership when they could get most of the experience for free. To stem the tide, Weight Watchers again turned to celebrity endorsement, this time with Jennifer Hudson, who publicly documented her weight loss journey after pregnancy using the program. But despite her efforts, the broader downward trend continued. Between 2011 and 15, Weight Watchers revenue fell from roughly $1.8 billion to below $1.2 billion. Then in 2015, Oprah, who had spent decades struggling with weight, lost 40 pounds after joining the program. Having witnessed the results, she invested about $40 million to buy roughly 10% of the company, joined the board of directors, and became the public face of the brand. Her support revived membership, revenue rebounded, and profits climbed. Over the next few years, Weight Watchers' adjusted operating profit rose sharply, and the stock jumped to over $100 per share, valuing the company at more than $6 billion. However, public perception about the program's effectiveness continued to fall. A 2016 study found that participants on the Weight Watchers program lost only about 2.6% more of their body weight than the control group. For most people, paying the monthly fees and attending meetings just to lose so little weight simply didn't match expectations. At the same time, more and more research started to emphasize the role of genetics, appetite regulation, and biology on weight. And programs like Weight Watchers that were built around discipline and personal responsibility began to be seen as fat shaming. Against that backdrop, Weight Watchers tried to reposition itself by rebranding as WW in 2018. However, the move backfired badly. People understood what Weight Watchers stood for, whereas the generic WW didn't mean anything to them. On top of that, the shift came at the worst possible time just before New Year's, when weight loss interest peaks. Leadership later acknowledged that it was bad timing for the move. In 2019 and 2020, the company made another bad move. With profits high and the stock at its peak, Weight Watchers decided to borrow money to repurchase shares at prices of around $70 to $80 each. That increased debt further, sending interest payments upwards of $100 million per year. Then the pandemic hit. In-person meetings were suspended, and Weight Watchers cut costs aggressively, including laying off many of the coaches who ran local groups. The company leaned harder into its app and virtual sessions, which worked for some members but removed the strongest differentiator it had always relied on. When restrictions were lifted, the meeting infrastructure didn't fully recover. There were fewer coaches, fewer groups, and less consistency. At the same time, WW was now competing directly with cheaper digital tools that offered similar tracking features without the overhead. By 2022 and 23, weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy entered mainstream awareness. Clinical trials showed average weight loss around 15% of body weight after a year, far exceeding what behavioral programs typically delivered. People's tolerance for modest results from an expensive program like Weight Watchers vanished. In a FOMO step, Weight Watchers pivoted itself towards acquiring a telehealth platform to offer prescriptions for weight loss drugs and combining the medication with its point system. The move confused and further weakened the company's position. Prescriptions were easy to obtain elsewhere, and once it was clear that the drugs were working, the rest of the program just didn't make sense.
The new Wegovy pill is now available through Weight Watchers. Powerful GLP-1 results in a simple pill at the lowest price available. And with Weight Watchers, you can get doctor support and personalized nutrition programs. See if you qualify at weightwatchers.com/TV.
In early 2024, Oprah Winfrey announced she was stepping down from the board and donating her shares to charity. She cited potential conflicts of interest after publicly discussing her own use of weight loss drugs. The stock fell sharply following the announcement, and revenue fell that year to roughly half its peak as earnings became negative. In May last year, Weight Watchers filed for bankruptcy protection. The brand went through a 6-week recovery, eliminating about $1.15 billion of debt, most of which had been weighing on the business since earlier buyouts and stock repurchases. Coming out of bankruptcy, the firm relisted on NASDAQ with a far cleaner balance sheet and has begun emphasizing its clinical and telehealth offerings, which have shown decent growth, while its traditional behavioral subscription business continues to shrink modestly. Do you think Weight Watchers will be able to regain its past glory? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to the channel before you go to get more such stories in your feed.